Bloomberg News on demand. Bloomberg on the Economy with Tom Keene. Tuesday, September 1st, 2009.
Ron Paul, congressman from the 14th District of Texas. Sunshine is needed. All desire transparency except the evil giant banks. While we're at it, let's end the Fed. Also, Paul on the South and the resurrection of the GOP. Let's get an update. I want to talk in a bit about the legislation on transparency. First of all, an obvious question to someone who just celebrated, I believe, the 74th year. Are you still delivering babies?
Not at present. I did it up to a couple of years ago, but lately I've gotten too busy, so I'm fading away from that. I do have one daughter that has sort of taken over that job for me.
The doctors, are they getting enough voice in this healthcare debate?
Oh, I think so. The doctors don't talk with one voice. They'll put doctors on the television, and they'll get them from, the liberal wing of the party and the system. And, Howard Dean is a doctor, but he doesn't necessarily agree with me about anything in economics. So being a doctor, I don't think gives you a unique perspective. I'm more interested in people and what their ideas are on individual liberty and how the free market works and what sound money is all about. So I think the doctors are getting a lot of voice, but not necessarily the ones that believe in the free market, even in the delivery of medical care.
The 14th District is the size of Massachusetts, just to put it into perspective. What have you learned in the past few weeks back home on recess?
Well, I've learned one thing that more or less confirms what I've been learning in the last 2 years, and that is people are gradually getting more and more upset. And probably this month of August, I've seen them as upset as ever before. So I think the reflection of what we see on some of these town hall meetings is certainly real. I didn't quite experience that type of anger in my district, but people are upset, and sometimes they'll strike out without fully knowing what's going on, or even knowing where I stand on some of the bills. That to me reflects people being scared. And I was talking to a banker the other day, and they said people are hesitant, and it was a real estate agent. Actually, people don't want to buy houses, not because they don't have a job, but they're concerned that they might not have their job in the next year or two, so they're being much more cautious. So people being frightened and not knowing the future has caused them to be a bit angry. I think it's healthy that they're directing their attention to Washington. In my case, I'm glad they're directing some attention to the Federal Reserve as well.
When you started H.R. 1207, how lonely was lonely? Was it you and a Democrat in a room together, or was it an immediate support?
Well, this go around, it was essentially me. I happened to bump into a few of my friends on the day I was putting it in, and they joined me, and I was so almost shocked that I had so many. At that time, many meant, about 10 or 12. But I've done this many, many times over the years, even back in the early 80s, because monetary policy has been something I've been especially interested in. I think before, the most I ever got total was about 18. So certainly conditions have changed, but I think it's all a consequence of the severe messing up of the system with the TARP funds. And that became known to all the American people, how Congress messed up, and there was no supervision and no transparency, and the money went to bail out rich people. And then when they heard a little bit more about the Federal Reserve and found out the Federal Reserve could be involved with even more dollars than the Congress is involved in, all of a sudden transparency became a very, very popular term. And so I've sort of latched on to that and picked up on the momentum to the point now where we have every Republican in the House and over 100 Democrats supporting this bill. Quite frankly, I think if it came up on the floor when we went back under suspension, I can't imagine anybody voting against having transparency of the Fed and finding out where they've been passing these dollars out to.
Congressman Paul, let's define transparency. We're not talking here about derivative pricing. I think of the battle between, say, John Taylor of Stanford and Dean Baker of the Center for Economic Progress in Washington. They both agree they want transparency of toxic assets. You're talking about the audit of the Federal Reserve System, right?
Yes, and everybody refers to the audit bill. I don't believe it's in my title. It's called the Federal Reserve Transparency Act, and that was a play on an important word, which is a healthy word, transparency. But this transparency, to me, means auditing, find out what they've been doing, what kind of deals they make with private companies, what kind of deals and agreements they make with central banks and other foreign governments, what kind of deals that they make with international monetary organizations. So there's a lot that goes on that nobody's been motivated to find out about because they've sort of accepted the Fed. The Fed's going to take care of us, and there's this relative stability and all these things. But all of a sudden now they've realized that we're in serious trouble. We've had a major crisis, and with a little bit of history and a little bit of education, they can go back and look at what has happened to the dollar since 1914, and it's not been very good.
But the dollar depreciation that you talk about it and the Fed, are we going to blame this on the central bank? Or are we going to blame this on the politicians, both from Texas and from the other 49 states, who have done fiscal policy and indeed supported monetary policy? I mean, is the Fed the messenger you're trying to shoot, or is it specifically about a central bank as an institution?
Well, it's the philosophy of government. If the philosophy of government is big government and you want to have a worldwide empire and you want to have a welfare state here at home, then you have to pay for it, and there's a limit to how much you can tax, and there's a limit to borrowing. So the Federal Reserve fits in as being the accommodator. It accommodates those who want big government. So the Fed itself doesn't create this. It's the system of government that creates the Fed, and people love it when things are going well.
Well, if the Fed is the accommodator, as you put it, are what you're suggesting that the need for audit and the increase in their balance sheet and the tools they've used to go from $900 billion out to $2 trillion. Jan Hatzius of Goldman Sachs the other day suggesting they could migrate possibly out to $4 trillion. If you look at that expansion, is that just the politician saying we don't want to confront this through the Treasury Department, so let's pawn it off on the Fed?
I think so. In many ways, that is true. I think subtly, I don't know how open it is, but, conservatives never want to restrain spending overseas and in the military department. That's taboo. You can't ever vote against any military expenditure or any adventurism overseas. But at home, a Democrat and a liberal would never vote against an expansion of control of medical health care or housing programs. So they sort of, blink and a nod, and they never go after the Fed. So I'm rather impressed that they're willing to consider it, which means they're rather frightened about the future, and the American people are waking up to this, and they're not as confident that the Fed will take care of things and smooth things over, and they're starting to see the problems, and I consider this a very exciting time and very healthy for the future of our country because we're getting to the bottom of the basic problem that we have.
Well, with the big support in the House, even Chairman Frank giving it his attention. What about the Senate? Do you see the same intensity in the Senate, or is the Senate removed from the more fractious House?
They're not nearly up to par with what we're doing now. I think there are 23 co-sponsors. But the first person I called when I introduced my bill was Bernie Sanders. And he, of course, is considered far on the left, and he doesn't mind using the word socialist. But we've worked together. He knows about how corporate interests are subsidized with a central bank and all this information that we've been getting. So he introduced it over there, but there's probably more conservative Republicans on that bill now. But I think the grassroots effort was mainly to support my bill in the House. But since we have, essentially two-thirds in the House, I think the grassroots effort will be shifted toward motivating the senators to join us.
I say this with respect. Let's assume that there's a bit of a deception here and that it's a one-time audit and it's GAO. That's fine, but you're really suggesting dramatically different changes in our central bank, including a transparency about their discussions and relationships with other nations. Do I have that right?
Oh, yeah, because that, to me, is undermining the whole principle of treaties. I mean, why would we create a central bank that can negotiate and make big financial deals with other governments and other central banks, and it's not even, ratified by the Senate. Nobody even knows what they are.
But Congressman Paul, are you suggesting, if we can both agree that the central bank was established out of the panic of 07, and granted there's been different eras of the Federal Reserve up to 51 and the McChesney-Martin Accord, etc., but are you suggesting a return to a more diffuse central bank of America with those instabilities in the economic cycle?
Well, if you really study our history of the